What is down, everybody? It is your main course, Little Pancake. Welcome back to another video. Today, we are talking about plants. Today, we are actually going to be talking about 4 different species of New Zealand plant. And all 4 of them are in some way or another endangered, threatened, in trouble. So I hope you're excited. I hope you're ready to rock and roll. Sit back, relax, get you a drink, get you a blanket, maybe a snack. Get cozy, get warmed up. Maybe light you a candle if you want. I got a new candle. I got a new candle actually. It's fall festival. It's very nice. It's got some pumpkin, some cinnamon, some spice. It's very nice. Very nice. Little acorn on there. Sheba. So if that's your thing, rock with it. Don't forget to blow it out later. And let's get into the video. So, as I mentioned, 4 species of plants today. If you might recall from my Philippine plants video, plants are hard to find information on. There is not as much push from people to research plants, to save plants, to help plants. From the general public, they care a lot more about furry animals than plants. That's just the way it is. That's life. First plant is Pimelea actea. Check that out. What a plant. It is a small coastal plant that is native to New Zealand. Of course, we're talking about New Zealand. I mean, everything's native to New Zealand. I'm going to say it for everyone, just in case you forget. The name actea, the species name, the specific epithet, that's actually what it's called, means coastal, which makes sense because it's a coastal plant. It was first named and described in 2008, which is very recent in the world of naming and describing organisms. A man named Colin J. Burrows described it. The species had previously been referred to as Pimelea turricina, and it was based on a specimen collected in 1968, and then Burrows switched it up. And then I think he started playing for the Bengals or something. So it is a low-growing shrub. Most coastal plants are relatively small and short. They consist of hairy twigs that stand up to 50 centimeters tall, which I forgot to do my conversions. What a silly goose I am. 20 inches, almost. So fairly tall for a little tiny plant. Each of these twigs grows up, has these small, round, bluish-green leaves on them that are very, very narrowly spaced out. They're very close together. Bang, 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 bang. And they tend to be about 5.5 millimeters long, which is about 0.2 inches. So pretty very, very small leaves, but there's a lot of them on these little branches, little twigs. Of course, like all of these vascular plants, they have flowers and fruits. Both flowers and fruits are white in color, like this, and they're very small, which you probably could have guessed. They flower between the months of September and May, and then they fruit shortly after. Quite a wide range of flowering time, but hey, that's what you get that's what you get, you know? The species was formerly very widespread along the western coast of the North Island. Now it has been reduced down to only 2 locations in the wild. A coastline paddock in, sorry if I mispronounce these words, Himatangi, and then the dunes in the Tapuara Reserve in Waitotara. Apologies if I mispronounced that to all my New Zealand fans. Its natural habitat is dune slacks, which those are the kind of temporary wetlands in between sand dunes. So you get your 2 sand dunes, and then the water can get in there, so it'll form like a temporary wetland and kind of transition back and forth. So that's where the Pimelea actea is found. This specific habitat is very vulnerable to a lot of introduced grasses. They will just completely take over a sand dune slack. So that is a big threat towards this plant. Some other threats include being trampled by livestock. You know, there's a lot of livestock that will kind of be close to the coastline, and if they're close enough, if they step on it, it's game over. You know, if they walk over this little plant, That's a wrap. And then another threat is just being simply overwhelmed by sand. So sand is not a dense solid. It can be blown around. It can be moved by humans. In some cases, humans might fill in these dune slacks, or just a kid with a shovel might make a hole and throw his excess sand on top of this plant. Or simply wind will just blow enough sand on top of it to smother it. And that's a wrap as well. And they are classified as nationally critical by the New Zealand Department of Conservation and are considered one of New Zealand's most threatened plants. So these guys are on the brink. They are going downhill. Prayers up for Primalea actea. The future for this plant is not looking good. I mean, only 2 locations. It is cultivated by some, but the recovery efforts are not very active from what I found. There's not a big push to save this plant. So we'll see what happens with it in the future. Not looking good. That's the Primalea actea. That's all I could find on it. Next up, Gunnera hamiltoni, second plant. This is a creeping herbaceous plant in the family Gunneraceae. It is endemic to the South Island and Stewart Island of New Zealand. So it's South Island and then the little island right underneath the South Island. That's where this plant can be found. It's most commonly found, once again, in coastal areas and in the damper sand along sparsely vegetated dune slacks and swales. Very similar habitat to the previous plant. It was first described in 1888 by a botanist by the name of Thomas Kirk. And this plant consists of small clusters of grayish-brown or sometimes greenish-red leaves that are only 2 to 7 centimeters long, 0.7 to about 2.5 inches long. So pretty small leaves on this plant. And then these leaves are covered in a wispy type of hair on the underside, I believe. The way this plant kind of grows in an area is a lot of small clusters of these little leaves come together very closely and form a sort of dense mat of leaves and foliage over the ground. They produce small greenish yellow flowers, very small, which then produce small red berries in the autumn months of August through December. So the berries are actually they look kind of yummy. I can't lie. I don't know if I would recommend eating it. I think you might be best to stay away. They do look delightful, especially on that little thing. They look sweet, but don't eat them. Seriously. They are classified as nationally critical as well, and are also considered one of the rarest plants in New Zealand. There are only 5 suspected remaining natural habitats, so a little better than the 2 of the previous plant, but 5 is not many. And then some of the threats that they face are related to their sort of sexual orientation dispersion. That was a weird way to say that. But basically, this plant has male and female plants. So a lot of plants will have male and female parts in each individual. These plants are separated. So there's male individuals and there's female individuals. Pretty much everywhere that we know of, it's either a male population or a female population. None of the areas are mixed. As you could assume, makes it very difficult to breed. It's unknown whether wild sexual reproduction actually does occur, and that's a big problem, you know. And you might be wondering, how do they survive at all? It's not really known. One thing that I think is you can propagate plants, right? So you can take a leaf off of a plant, put it in the ground, and make a new plant out of it. So that might be what happens. It might just, drop some leaves or something, or drop a piece of its something, and sprout up another flower. But it's widely thought that sexual reproduction does not occur in the wild, which is a problem. It's also unknown whether the sexual distribution of just males in one spot, females in another, is natural. You wouldn't think that would happen naturally, right? That's a very odd phenomena. So it's unknown, truly. That's not much, but that's pretty much all I got on the Gunnera hamiltoni. It's a weird case of reproduction. Like, how does it reproduce? not much is known about these plants, partially because there's so few to study. Moving on to the Pittosporum patulum. Pittosporum patulum. This also is a plant endemic to New Zealand. They're only found on the South Island. And this is a small tree. So we're moving up from little tiny shrubs to a tree. The tree only gets to about 5 meters, which is about 16 feet. So pretty tall relative to the last, but relative to all trees, that's not that big. And it lives in subalpine scrub and canopy gaps. So if you have this big canopy, it's not going to be able to grow because it won't be able to get any sunlight. But when there's a gap in the canopy or just kind of scrub land, that's where they thrive. They often occur in sites that have been disturbed. So a wildfire runs through. This is one of the trees that will actually like that and thrive in that environment post-fire. Avalanches as well, and river margins. So, you get a flood or something. The bark is a pale grayish brown, and they have brownish green leathery leaves that are very rough and lobed when they are juveniles, and then as they age they become more smooth. Their flowers are really beautiful. They're very deep red, and they have a intense floral scent to them. So they're very smelly, very red, very pretty. Then they flower in the late spring to midsummer months. And these guys have quite a few more threats. One is grazing herbivores, both native and non-native. They'll munch on the saplings. They make it difficult. They're also threatened by possums, oddly enough. Possums are a big threat because they eat juveniles. So just like the grazing animals, they'll eat the shoots. And then the adult foliage they can eat. So the leaves, they'll munch on those. That's not good for the tree. And they also like to eat the flowers, which makes reproduction more difficult. Another threat is rodents. They feed on seeds. So rats. When they can't find any cheese, they'll eat the seeds of this plant. They'll rummage around in the foliage of the floor of the forest or whatnot. They are actually listed on the IUCN Red List as endangered. The previous two plants were not on the IUCN Red List as far as I could find, and they are listed as nationally endangered by the New Zealand Department of Conservation. So not quite as critical as the previous two species. They've still got a okay population, but they are not doing well. That's all I got for Pittosporum patulum. And the final plant that we will be discussing today is another tree by the name of Olearia hectori. This is a flowering plant from the daisy family of Asteraceae. I don't know if I pronounced that right. That sounds weird. So it's in the same family as daisies, and it is known commonly as deciduous tree daisy and Hector's tree daisy. Got some cool slang. You could drop that on when you're traveling to New Zealand. You can be like, "Do you guys have any Hector's tree daisies around here?" Might be fire. They are endemic to New Zealand, of course. They are found mainly in river valleys along the eastern South Island. As I mentioned, this is a small tree, bigger than the last tree. They grow up to 10 meters or 33 feet tall. So we're getting up in more tree range, more of when you think of a tree. This is about as tall. They have reddish stems, furrowed bark, and oppositely arranged bunches of 2 to 4 grayish-green leaves. Leaves are 20 to 50 millimeters long, which is about 0.8 to 2 inches long. So pretty small leaves for a big old tree. And then about 5 to 20 millimeters wide, so less than an inch wide. The underside of these leaves are covered in silvery endamentum, which is just a fancy word for hairs, trichomes, on the underside of leaves. So kind of hairy, you feel the underside of the leaf, it'll be soft. They produce very tiny flowers that are arranged in dense clusters, which are produced on short and hairy stems. A lot of hair on this guy. He doesn't shave very often, which is fine. That's a personal choice. We're not here to judge. They flower from October to December, and then they produce fruits from December to February. Pretty tight schedule. This guy keeps it real. Their florets are a pale yellow, enclosed by pale green filaries, which are just the kind of things around the flowers, you know. An interesting fact that I found, I don't know how I stumbled upon this, but I did. They have 108 chromosomes. That's a lot of chromosomes. You know, we don't have that many. Not even close. Plants are weird. Very complex. Very complex. The main threat to this species is habitat degradation. That's a lot what we see with every species, really. Every endangered species, that is a factor. In the Anthropocene that we live in now, that's a factor. Anthropocene just means human world. They require a very open habitat to germinate, reproduce, and these habitats are decreasing a lot due to introduced flora. So introduced plants will choke out and just kind of take up that open habitat that these trees enjoy. And then grazing animals can also cause problems. If you put a field out with a bunch of cows, they're gonna eat the shoots. They're gonna make sure there's no trees in that field, which is where these guys like to be. And they are classified as nationally endangered by the New Zealand Department of Conservation, the NZDOC, as I like to call it when I'm chatting with my friends about this stuff. That is Olearia hectori. Let me know which one you think is the prettiest of the 4 plants we discussed. That's all I've got for us today. Like I said, it's hard to find information on plants. It really is. That's why there's a lot less information than the animals. Because the animals, I mean, we'd still be going, talking about an endangered animal. Both plants, we covered 4 of them in 25 minutes. But let me know what you think of these plants. If you have any more information on any of these, drop a comment. I'd be happy to know more. I'm always searching for information. Always stay curious. Someone said that, I'm sure. That's a quote from somebody. Gotta be. And then smash that subscribe like. Smash the subscribe like. What? Smash the subscribe button. That's where I'm starting. We're so close to 700 subscribers. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool little milestone. And smash the like button too. Boost the video. Makes it do better. Makes me know that you like these videos. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you are burning your candle. If you are about to go to bed or something, make sure you blow your candle out. That's a mistake that you don't want to make, you know, because best case scenario, you don't have a candle anymore. You know, worst case scenario, fire. Anyway, I don't know why I talked about candles so much this video. Yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you can make someone else's day better, do it. Whether that's holding the door for someone, whether that's helping someone pick something up, someone drops a pen, help them out, you know. Whatever you can do to bring some light into someone else's day, go for it. Spread kindness. Spread love. Give a hug to your homie, you know. Why not? With that being said, that concludes the Endangered Plants of New Zealand, and I will see all of y'all later.